So often we act like other people have the ability to control our feelings. So, for example, somebody would say, "You're making me angry," or "You make me so happy." And although other people and events do influence or trigger our feelings, the actual cause of our feelings is usually found in our own beliefs, our own attitudes, and our own values. So, in other words, what we're thinking. And this is also where the four basic goals of behavior operate. We can show this more clearly by mapping into the think, feel, do cycle. So remember, when you think it, you feel it, then you do it. So the event happens, then we start thinking, how do I best achieve the goal? And what is the goal? Belonging, power, protection, or withdrawal. Then we start to have a feeling, and it's either positive or negative, and that's going to lead to either the positive or the negative approach to the goal. And during the think step of the cycle, the child is choosing the goal, and it's usually an unconscious process, and the child is considering how to best achieve it. And so that's going to produce the feeling. And together, the thinking and the feeling, much of which is usually unconscious, are going to produce a behavior. And that's either going to be positive or a negative approach to reaching the goal. And so when a parent is involved in the interaction, the child's behavior is often the event that triggers the child's think, feel, do cycle. And then likewise, the child's response to the parent is often the event that triggers the parent's think, feel, do cycle. And so we can diagram a parent-child interaction by combining the two cycles. So we have the child cycle and the parent cycle, and they are overlapping. And unless one side does the unexpected and changes the interaction, the cycle is going to continue or even escalate until the parent and child physically separate and then resume later with a new triggering event. So to illustrate how the parent-child cycle works, let's look at an example of a child at a dinner table. And they're pursuing the goal of belonging through the negative approach of undue attention seeking. So looking at this chart, we're going to start with number 1 under think on the child's side. And then we're going to follow the numbers around the cycle to see how the interaction takes shape between the child and the parent, and it's going to end at number 15. So what can the parent do to avoid paying off the misbehavior and break the cycle here? So number 1, the child is thinking, I must have attention to be okay. And then we go to number 2, which is the feel. They're going to feel anxious and discouraged. And what are they going to do? They're going to play with their food. And then the parent is going to think, I better correct this behavior. And then we're going to feel annoyed. And we're going to say, stop playing with your food. And then the child is going to say, finally, some attention. Playing with my food gets me noticed. And that's going to make the child feel relieved. And so they're going to stop playing with their food. And then the parent's going to say, hey, it worked. He stopped playing with his food. So you're going to feel relieved. And then you're going to resume dinner ignoring the child. And then the child's going to think I'm being ignored again, but I know how to get her attention. And they're going to feel anxious and discouraged. So they're going to play with the food again. And it's just going to continue this cycle. So how do we avoid paying off the misbehavior and breaking the cycle? Did you seem to notice how the mother actually paid off the child's negative approach by giving him the undue attention that he wanted? In the case of undue attention seeking, we want to act more and talk less. The discipline that works best is either a brief confrontation through an I message or a logical consequence. So either stop playing with your food or you're going to need to leave the table. You decide. And this logical consequence does give the child some brief attention, but if the child resumes playing with his food, the parent then follows through with the consequence. So I see that you've decided to leave the table tonight. Please put your plate in the sink and we're going to try again tomorrow. So now the child must deal with the consequence of getting no attention at all, which spoils his payoff and it breaks the cycle. We have to remember that kids are going to test to see if we're going to be consistent with our new approach. So this parent should expect more undue attention-seeking behaviors in other areas, at least for a little while. And if the child refuses to leave the table, she's moving into the negative approach of rebellion. And we're going to cover that next. But just remember that discipline is only half of the process for redirecting this behavior. Discipline is really just designed to limit the negative behavior. but it's just as important to actively encourage the child towards the positive approach. In the case of undue attention seeking, we want to help the child achieve the recognition and the contact that they want by playing a useful role. So in that example, the mom may have involved her son in the conversation by asking him a question. And we can find meaningful ways for our children to contribute to the family while ignoring some of the unproductive attention-seeking behaviors. So we can use encouragement skills that we learned in Lesson 4. One of the things that we can do here is determine what the goal is. Because we usually don't know what the goal behind the child's misbehavior is, so we often take an action that makes the problem worse. So in other words, our discipline actually pays off the child's negative behavior by helping them to achieve their goal. And if the negative behavior works, why not continue to use it? After all, it's usually the easier approach. So the first step is really to just determine what your child really wants. Once you know the goal, you can help redirect the child to choose a positive approach to getting it. And that requires some detective work on your part. But there's 2 clues that really just usually tell us what the goal is. 1, your own feeling during the conflict. Are you annoyed, angry, hurt, helpless? Because a lot of the child's misbehavior is aimed at the parent. So becoming aware of your own feelings during a conflict can be a powerful clue to the child's goal. And then the second one is the child's response to your attempts at correcting the misbehavior. How does your child behave after you've made the effort to correct the misbehavior? So this chart is kind of a guide for interpreting the answers to those 2 questions. So if you feel annoyed and your child's response is to stop the behavior but start it again very soon, then they're undue attention seeking. And so their goal is belonging. If you're feeling angry and they increase the misbehavior or give in only to fight again another day, then that is rebellion and they are seeking power. If you're feeling hurt and they continue to hurt us or increase the misbehavior, they're seeking revenge and the goal is protection. And if you're feeling helpless and they become passive and refuse to try, that's undue avoidance and they're seeking withdrawal.